the quiet strength that shapes your destiny. Earl Nightingale, Inspiration. There comes a moment in every human life when certainty collapses. A moment when the familiar no longer provides comfort, when the future feels blurred, and when the strength that once felt sufficient suddenly seems inadequate. These moments arrive without warning. They come through failure, loss, rejection, illness, financial collapse, broken relationships, shattered expectations, or silent internal battles that no one else ever sees. They come for everyone. What separates people in these moments is not intelligence, privilege, or talent. It is not luck, background, or timing. The true dividing line is emotional strength. Emotional strength is the quiet force that determines whether a person breaks under pressure or bends and survives. It is not dramatic. It does not announce itself loudly. Often, it operates in silence, in the private hours when doubt is loud and hope feels distant, in the choices made when no one is watching, in the decision to continue when quitting feels easier. Emotional strength does not always look strong. Sometimes it looks exhausted. Sometimes it looks uncertain. Sometimes it looks like simply staying present in pain instead of running from it. And yet, it is this very force that has carried humanity through wars, collapses, plagues, injustice, and personal tragedy since the beginning of time. Emotional strength is not the absence of suffering. It is the ability to endure suffering without allowing it to define your identity. This distinction is essential. Many people believe emotional strength means emotional hardness or constant positivity. They assume resilient individuals do not feel pain deeply. This belief is false and dangerous. Truly resilient people feel everything: grief, fear, disappointment, anger, but they refuse to let those emotions become permanent prisons. They experience pain without surrendering their sense of self to it. Emotional strength begins with a single internal realization. Life is unpredictable, unfair, and uncontrollable in many ways, but your response to it is not. That realization is the spark. It marks the transition from helplessness to agency, from reaction to intention, from survival to growth. When this spark ignites, a subtle but powerful shift occurs. Instead of asking only, "Why is this happening to me?" a person begins to ask, "What is this shaping me into?" That question has altered the course of countless lives. Resilient individuals do not deny reality. They face it directly. They do not pretend circumstances are acceptable, but they accept that circumstances exist. From that acceptance, strength is born. Resistance drains energy. Acceptance redirects it. History repeatedly confirms this truth. Every major human advancement emerged not from comfort, but from challenge. Civilizations did not evolve because life was easy. They evolved because adaptation was necessary. Individuals did not become remarkable because they were protected from hardship. They became remarkable because they refused to surrender to it. Emotional strength is deeply human. It is not rare, and it is not reserved for exceptional personalities. It exists within every person, waiting to be strengthened through awareness, discipline, reflection, and choice. It is built quietly through small decisions repeated daily, choosing responsibility over blame, courage over avoidance, honesty over denial. One resilient individual can influence many. A parent who remains emotionally grounded during hardship teaches children that storms are survivable. A leader who responds to crisis with clarity and integrity stabilizes entire organizations. A friend who listens without judgment during another's breakdown becomes proof that human connection still matters. Emotional strength multiplies in a world defined by uncertainty, economic instability, technological disruption, social division, environmental stress. The cultivation of emotional strength is no longer optional. It is essential. Societies that lack emotional strength fracture under pressure. Individuals who lack emotional strength collapse inwardly even when resources are available. The truth is simple and confronting. Life will challenge you. The only question is whether those challenges will diminish you or develop you. Emotional strength is not about becoming unbreakable. It is about becoming someone who can break, repair, and return stronger. It is about transforming pain into wisdom, loss into clarity, and adversity into purpose. The spark of emotional strength already exists within you. You are here. That alone is evidence that you have survived more than you once believed you could. This script is not about turning you into someone new. It is about helping you remember the strength you already possess and learning how to use it consciously Understanding emotional strength, the foundation of inner power. To understand emotional strength, we must first remove the myths surrounding it. Emotional strength is not endless toughness. It is not emotional numbness. It is not blind optimism or denial of difficulty. In fact, people who suppress emotion in the name of being strong often collapse later under unresolved pressure. True emotional strength is built on honesty. Honesty with oneself about fear, limitation, pain, and uncertainty. Without honesty, emotional strength becomes performance. With honesty, it becomes power. At its core, emotional strength is the ability to return to psychological balance after disruption. Life disrupts constantly. Plans fail. People leave. Bodies weaken. Systems change. Expectations collapse. Emotional strength determines whether a person remains stuck in disorientation or gradually regains stability while integrating new understanding. This process is not linear. Growth rarely follows a straight path. Resilient individuals experience setbacks, confusion, and exhaustion. What separates them is not perfection, but persistence. They refuse to interpret temporary collapse as permanent defeat. Neuroscience supports this reality. The human brain is adaptable. Experiences reshape neural pathways. When adversity is met with reflection, emotional regulation, and problem solving, the brain strengthens circuits associated with calm judgment and flexibility. Over time, emotional strength becomes less effortful, not because life becomes easier, but because the nervous system becomes more capable. Emotional strength is learned. It develops through repeated exposure to challenge combined with conscious response. Each time you face difficulty and choose engagement over avoidance, your capacity expands. Each time you recover from disappointment without self-destruction, you teach your nervous system that distress is survivable. 4 foundational pillars support emotional strength. 1. Self-awareness. Self-awareness is the ability to observe your internal experience without being consumed by it. It means recognizing thoughts, emotions, and impulses without automatically obeying them. Without self-awareness, adversity controls behavior. With it, adversity becomes information. Resilient individuals can distinguish between what they feel and who they are. They can say, I am experiencing fear rather than I am weak. This separation creates space for choice. 2. Meaning-making. Pain without meaning becomes suffering. Pain with meaning becomes growth. Meaning is not discovered, it is constructed. 2 people can experience the same hardship and emerge differently based on interpretation. When pain is framed as evidence of inadequacy, emotional strength weakens. When pain is framed as a challenge carrying lessons, emotional strength strengthens. Meaning does not erase pain, it gives pain direction. 3. Adaptive coping. Emotional strength is practical. It involves behavior, seeking support instead of isolating, taking action despite fear, regulating emotions instead of suppressing them. Avoidance offers short-term relief but long-term weakness. Engagement builds capacity. 4. Connection. Humans are not designed to endure alone. Ischion stabilizes perspective and buffers stress. Emotional strength does not mean independence from others. It means healthy interdependence. Isolation distorts reality. Connection restores it. Understanding emotional strength also requires recognizing what undermines it. Chronic avoidance, rigid thinking, learned helplessness, and identity fusion with failure. These patterns convince people that change is impossible and effort is pointless.
Emotional strength dismantles these illusions. It restores agency.
It replaces rigidity with flexibility and fear with informed courage. Across cultures, emotional strength appears in different forms: endurance, acceptance, collective strength, but the core remains the same. Adaptation without loss of identity. Emotional strength allows you to change without disappearing. That is its deepest power, facing adversity, turning obstacles into opportunities. Adversity is not an interruption to life, it is an integral part of it. No matter how carefully a person plans, how disciplined they are, or how fortunate their circumstances seem, difficulty eventually arrives. Sometimes it arrives slowly, through gradual erosion, financial pressure, emotional distance, loss of motivation. Other times it arrives suddenly, through events that shatter stability in an instant. What makes adversity so destabilizing is not only the external disruption it causes, but the internal questions it provokes. Who am I now? What does this mean? How do I move forward when the path I trusted no longer exists? These questions can paralyze a person or awaken them. The difference lies in engagement. First and most difficult step in facing adversity is acceptance. Acceptance is often misunderstood as weakness or surrender. In truth, it is the foundation of strength. Acceptance means acknowledging reality as it is, without denial or distortion. It means recognizing that something has changed, something has been lost, or something is outside your control. Resistance to reality drains energy. Acceptance redirects it when people remain trapped in resistance. Replaying what should have happened, bargaining with the past, or blaming endlessly, they remain psychologically frozen. Resilient individuals accept reality not because it is fair, but because it is real. From that clarity, purposeful action becomes possible. Once acceptance is established, discernment follows. Discernment allows a person to separate what can be influenced from what must be released. This distinction is critical. Attempting to control the uncontrollable leads to frustration and exhaustion. Focusing on what can be influenced restores agency. Adversity has a unique way of stripping life down to its essentials. Illusions fall away, illusions of permanence, certainty, and control. While this process is painful, it is also revealing. Many people discover during hardship that much of what they once prioritized was superficial, while neglected aspects, health, relationships, meaning, suddenly become central. This reordering is not accidental. Adversity forces clarity. People who face hardship consciously often report that their values change. They become less driven by external validation and more by internal alignment. They stop postponing fulfillment for an imagined future and begin asking how to live well within present limitations. This is how obstacles become opportunities, not because adversity is desirable, but because it is instructive. Psychology describes this process as post-adversity growth. Growth does not mean the absence of pain. It means the expansion of perspective alongside pain. Research consistently shows that individuals who process adversity intentionally often experience increased emotional depth, stronger relationships, enhanced self-trust, and clear. Our purpose. Facing adversity also develops emotional endurance. When a person survives intense emotional states, fear, disappointment, grief, they learn something vital. Emotions are powerful, but they are not permanent. This understanding reduces fear of future difficulty and increases willingness to engage with life fully. Constraint often fuels creativity. When familiar paths collapse, the mind is forced to innovate. Many meaningful careers, relationships, and contributions emerge not from success, but from failure that redirected effort. Adversity also exposes coping patterns. Some people collapse inwardly, numbing pain through distraction or avoidance. Others externalize pain through anger and blame. Resilient individuals take a different path. They feel pain fully, seek understanding, and choose constructive response over impulsive reaction. Timing matters in adversity. Initially, stabilization is necessary, restoring safety, routine, and support. Later comes reflection, where meaning is extracted. Finally comes integration, where lessons become embodied rather than intellectual. Common traps include rumination, comparison, and avoidance. Rumination traps the mind in the past. Comparison distorts reality by measuring private struggle against public appearance. Avoidance delays healing. Emotional strength counters these traps with presence, honesty, and self-compassion. Facing adversity ultimately transforms a person's relationship with uncertainty. Instead of fearing unpredictability, resilient individuals learn to trust their capacity to respond. Life becomes less about control and more about competence. The psychology of pain and growth. Pain is unavoidable. Suffering, however, is shaped by interpretation. Pain refers to the raw experience of loss, failure, or discomfort. Suffering arises from the meaning attached to that pain. The stories the mind constructs abo. What pain says about identity, future, and worth. The human mind seeks explanation instinctively. When something painful happens, the brain asks why. If the answer becomes rigid, self-blaming, or catastrophic, suffering multiplies. If the answer is flexible and compassionate, growth becomes possible. Emotional strength depends on cognitive flexibility, the ability to revise interpretations rather than treating them as absolute truth. Rigid thinking locks individuals into despair. Flexible thinking allows adaptation. Pain often activates core beliefs formed early in life, beliefs about adequacy, safety, and belonging. This is why similar events affect people differently. One person interprets failure as confirmation of inadequacy. Another interprets it as feedback. The event is the same. The meaning is not. Growth begins when automatic interpretations are questioned. This is not forced positivity. It is critical thinking applied inwardly. It involves asking whether a belief is accurate, useful, or inherited rather than chosen. Emotionally, growth requires self-compassion. People who attack themselves during hardship weaken emotional strength. Those who respond with kindness recover faster and more sustainably. Self-compassion does not excuse harmful behavior. It creates a stable internal environment for change. Another essential process is emotional integration. Suppressed emotions do not disappear. They manifest as anxiety, irritability, or numbness. Resilient growth requires allowing emotions to be felt, named, and processed safely. This is how pain becomes information rather than poison. Pain also humbles identity. It exposes the limits of control and dissolves false certainty. While uncomfortable, this humility often deepens empathy. People who have suffered tend to recognize suffering in others more readily. This recognition can transform pain into compassion-driven and purpose. Why does suffering strengthen some people and weaken others? The difference lies in engagement. Those who engage pain consciously, reflecting, learning, seeking support, experience growth. Those who disengage through denial or bitterness remain stuck. Growth is not automatic. It is intentional. Pain can either shrink identity or expand it. It can convince a person they are powerless or reveal strength they never knew existed. The outcome depends on interpretation, support, and willingness to evolve. Emotional strength is not about eliminating pain. It is about transforming one's relationship with it. Breaking the victim mindset. One of the greatest threats to emotional strength is not adversity itself, but the mindset that forms around it. This mindset quietly convinces a person that they are powerless, defined by what happened to them, and trapped in a story they did not choose. This is known as the victim mindset, not as an insult, but as a psychological pattern. The victim mindset develops when pain becomes identity. It begins innocently. Something unfair happens. Someone is hurt, betrayed, rejected, or deprived. The emotional response is valid, but over time, if the mind repeatedly returns to the same narrative, this ruined me, this defines me, this means I can't move forward, the experience solidifies into identity. The person stops experiencing pain and starts being the pain. This is where emotional strength erodes. Breaking the victim mindset does not mean denying injustice or pretending harm did not occur. It means refusing to allow that harm to determine the rest of your life. It means acknowledging what happened without allowing it to become the sole lens through which everything else is interpreted. The victim mindset removes agency. It teaches the nervous system that effort is useless and that outcomes are predetermined. Over time, this belief leads to passivity, resentment, and emotional stagnation. The world becomes something that happens to the individual rather than something they actively engage with. Emotional strength restores agency. The shift begins with a single realization. You can honor your pain without organizing your identity around it. This is not a denial of suffering. It is a refusal to remain imprisoned by it. Resilient individuals ask different questions. Instead of why did this happen to me, they eventually ask what choices are still available to me now. This question does not erase the past, but it reopens the future. Responsibility plays a central role here. Responsibility is often misunderstood as blame. In truth, responsibility is ownership of response. You may not be responsible for what happened, but you are responsible for how you live afterward. This distinction is liberating. Taking responsibility restores dignity. When people remain in victimhood, they often wait for validation, apology, or external change before moving forward. Resilient individuals understand that waiting gives power away. Healing begins the moment responsibility is reclaimed. Breaking the victim mindset also requires confronting secondary gains. Sometimes victimhood provides protection from risk, from accountability, from disappointment. Letting go of victim identity means stepping back into uncertainty. It means risking failure again. Emotional strength chooses growth over comfort. Language matters deeply in this process. The stories people tell themselves shape emotional reality. Statements like "this always happens to me" or "I'll never recover" reinforce helplessness. Reframing does not deny pain. It challenges permanence. Emotional strength replaces always with sometimes, never with not yet, and ruined with changed. Breaking victimhood also involves forgiveness, not necessarily of others, but of oneself. Many people punish themselves for not preventing harm, for not being stronger, for not knowing better. This self-punishment prolongs suffering. Self-forgiveness restores movement. Ultimately, emotional strength requires identity expansion. You are more than what hurt you. You are also what survived, adapted, learned, and continued. The moment you stop defining yourself by what happened and start defining yourself by how you respond, the victim mindset loosens its grip. Identity, failure, and inner strength. Failure is one of the most misunderstood experiences in human life. Culturally, failure is often framed as incompetence or weakness. Psychologically, it threatens identity. Emotionally, it triggers shame. For many people, failure feels like exposure, the fear that others will now see what they secretly believe about themselves. Emotional strength transforms the meaning of failure. At its core, failure is feedback. It reveals misalignment between expectation and reality. It exposes skill gaps, flawed assumptions, or insufficient preparation. While uncomfortable, this information is invaluable. Resilient individuals do not personalize failure, they analyze it. Identity plays a critical role here. When identity is fused with success, failure feels catastrophic. When identity is rooted in values, effort, and adaptability, failure becomes instructive rather than destructive. Resilient identity is flexible. It allows a person to fail without collapsing. It separates self-worth from outcome. Inner strength is not built through uninterrupted success. It is built through recovery. Each time a person fails and chooses reflection over self-contempt, their capacity expands. Each time they attempt again with adjusted strategy, confidence deepens. Not blind confidence, but earned confidence. Failure also exposes attachment. Often people are not afraid of failure itself, but of what failure represents. Loss of approval, loss of identity, loss of imagined future. Emotional strength involves grieving those losses honestly rather than denying them. Strength emerges when individuals accept that identity can evolve. A failed role does not mean a failed person. A closed door does not mean the end of purpose. Often it means redirection. Inner strength is closely linked to self-respect. Self-respect grows when actions align with values, even when outcomes disappoint. People who maintain integrity during failure emerge stronger than those who succeed by abandoning themselves. Resilient individuals learn to measure progress internally rather than externally. They ask, did I act with courage? Did I learn? Did I grow? These metrics are within control. Over time, this orientation creates stability. Success becomes welcome, but not required for self-worth. Failure becomes informative, but not defining. Identity anchored in emotional strength is not fragile. It bends without breaking. It adapts without disappearing. It evolves without losing core integrity. Emotional strength in daily life, money, career, and discipline. Emotional strength is not only tested in moments of crisis, it is shaped daily in ordinary pressures. Financial stress, career uncertainty, unmet expectations, routine failures, and long-term effort without immediate reward are some of the most persistent challenges people face. These pressures rarely appear dramatic, yet they silently erode confidence and motivation over time. Daily emotional strength determines long-term outcomes. Financial instability, for instance, does more than strain resources. It strains identity. Money often becomes symbolic of security, competence, and self-worth. When finances are unstable, people may internalize shame, anxiety, or a sense of failure. Resilient individuals separate circumstance from character. They recognize that financial difficulty is a condition, not a verdict. Emotional strength in financial life involves realism and discipline. It requires confronting facts without panic, planning without perfection, and taking responsibility without self-judgment. Instead of collapsing into fear or denial, resilient individuals ask practical questions. What can I control today? What habits must change? What skills must I develop? Career emotional strength follows similar principles. Careers rarely unfold in straight lines. Rejection, stagnation, missed opportunities, and redirection are common. Those who expect constant progress often feel defeated by inevitable delays. Resilient individuals expect fluctuation. They treat careers as evolving systems rather than fixed identities. When work loses meaning or stability, resilient people return to fundamentals, learning, adaptability, and contribution. They focus on building transferable skills rather than clinging to specific roles. They view setbacks as information about alignment rather than proof of inadequacy. Discipline is the quiet engine of emotional strength. Motivation fluctuates, discipline remains. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in action. It means showing up even when enthusiasm fades. It means maintaining habits that support stability, sleep, structure, learning, and effort. Resilient discipline is flexible, not rigid. It allows rest without abandonment. It emphasizes consistency over intensity. Over time, disciplined action builds trust with oneself, and self-trust is a cornerstone of emotional strength. Daily emotional strength is built through small decisions, managing resources responsibly, continuing effort despite uncertainty, and choosing long-term growth over short-term relief. These decisions compound quietly into strength. Emotional mastery and mental toughness. Emotional mastery is emotional suppression. It is the ability to experience emotions fully without being ruled by them. Mental toughness does not mean feeling less. It means responding more intelligently. Resilient individuals understand that emotions are signals, not commands. Fear signals potential threat. Anger signals violated boundaries. Sadness signals loss. These emotions are informative, but they are not decision makers. Emotional mastery begins with awareness. You cannot regulate what you do not recognize. Naming emotions reduces their intensity and restores cognitive clarity. From awareness comes choice. Mental toughness involves tolerating discomfort without escaping it prematurely. Growth requires discomfort. Avoiding discomfort limits capacity. Resilient individuals allow discomfort to exist while continuing aligned action. Self-talk plays a critical role. Internal dialogue can either reinforce emotional strength or undermine it. Catastrophic self-talk weakens resolve. Grounded self-talk stabilizes it. Resilient self-talk is honest but supportive. This is hard, but I can handle it. This hurts, but it will change. Mental toughness also involves patience. Many people abandon effort too early, mistaking slow progress for failure. Emotional strength understands that meaningful change takes time. Emotional mastery does not eliminate struggle. It creates space between stimulus and response. In that space lies freedom. Emotional strength in relationships and society. Emotional strength is not only individual, it is relational. Relationships test emotional strength through conflict, misunderstanding, disappointment, and loss. Social emotional strength requires communication, boundaries, and empathy. Resilient relationships allow honesty without cruelty and vulnerability, without dependency. They survive conflict because they prioritize understanding over winning. They adapt as individuals grow and change. Boundaries are essential. Emotional strength involves knowing when to engage and when to step back. Overextension leads to resentment. Healthy boundaries protect emotional resources. On a societal level, emotional strength determines whether communities fracture or strengthen under pressure. Collective emotional strength emerges through shared purpose, mutual support, and adaptability. Individuals who cultivate emotional strength contribute to social stability. Emotional strength spreads through example. Calm presence influences others. Integrity inspires trust. One grounded individual can stabilize many. Becoming unbreakable, a new way of living. Becoming unbreakable does not mean avoiding pain. It means developing a way of living that integrates pain without collapse. It means expecting challenge without fear and meeting uncertainty with competence. An unbreakable life is not rigid. It is flexible. It adapts without losing core values. It responds rather than reacts. This way of living is marked by responsibility, reflection, discipline, compassion, courage. It is not dramatic. It is consistent. Emotional strength becomes identity, not because pain defines you, but because growth does.